This will be the last time I speak of wide and humpy. That idea is getting put to rest. We're going with something massive and awesome. Hey, this is BJ from This Old Family Home, and today, well, actually for the last 2.5 weeks, I've been putting together a handrail that was not in existence when we moved into the house. It was an epically long project, and by epic, I do mean it took absolutely forever. I'm going to split this video into two. The first video is on procurement of the handrail and going to all the all the architectural salvage stores, and I had to stain and refinish the Newel post and the handrail, and we had to go find the balusters. So that's the first video. After this, it'll be the next video of actually the installation. So here we go. All right, well, I think we found our Newel post. There are some pretty significant gaps. All right, we're looking for spindles. We're gonna make a railing. Stereo. We're looking for stereo and spindles. And maybe something that goes on top of a Newel post. There's a lot of stuff in here. So what do you guys think of the junk store?
Look at those lights.
Oh my God, look at all this stuff. All right, I came back turns out I love handrails, and I came back looking for this very specific design. I call it wide and humpy. I've been working for 30 minutes to try to unbury these two rails. We actually came back to this store to look for the wider rail, and I mean, it was buried up to about 8 feet. So I started on this an hour ago. This will be the last time I speak of wide and humpy. That idea is getting put to rest. We're going with something massive and awesome.
I don't think you can take this in the house by yourself.
I worked a little too hard for that. That is awesome. I worked to gather all the parts for the stair rail and balusters and the Newel post it took about 12 visits to a handful of different architectural resale stores to find exactly what I was looking for. I was trying to find something old. I didn't want to go new. Try to match a little bit of some of the character that used to be in this house. So we ended up having to buy the balusters used in the fact that they were from Craigslist, but they're from the 90s or 2000s from some county home. And they are pretty good quality. They're square at the top, square at the bottom. The railing and the Newel post is old. So the first step is I have to repair the Newel post and then refinish the Newel post and handrail. Okay, fortunately, I put glue into all the seams, and as soon as I tightened them up with the clamps, they squared right up, so it is looking pretty good. I also put some brads into all of the joints, and should hold. All right, it's a beautiful day here in St. Louis, Missouri, so I'm going to get outside and take my workshop into the outdoors. All right, I'm going to get started on sanding this. First, I'm going to go at it with a belt sander. You can see that the Newel box didn't go together perfectly. It's not too bad. People probably wouldn't even be able to tell. But if I am able to take some of this edge out, I'm gonna give it a shot. Okay, I got all sides sanded. I used the belt sander, and then I did use a little bit of steel wool, but I don't think the steel wool did anything. Oak is such a hard wood that, I was using a rough grit on my belt sander, and it still hardly did anything to it. All right, next I'm working on the handrail. I'm just gonna do a light sanding on it. Just gonna do a quick pass over it. It's already stripped. It just needs to be just a little smoothed out to make sure as you're running your hand over it that you're not gonna catch any splinters, and a little bit to reveal the true look of the wood. All right, after the belt sander, I did take a mouse sander to it. You can see that it's looking awesome. It went from it started out just a little darker than this, and in the texture and colors were inconsistent, and now it is a much richer color. So now I can tell by feeling it that it's got a little bit of it feels like it has some grit to it, and I can almost feels like you're about to get a splinter. So I'm going to go for some fine steel wool next, and I think that'll be the last step. All right, so I got the handrail about where I want it to be in terms of sanding. So now I need to make a guide for the balusters to go into, because this old handrail, it used to have balusters in it. You can kind of see the holes in there. I cut these, I ripped down 1/4 inch stock oak, and I am going to, so now it's 1/4 by 1/4, and I'm going to put it just to the side of the baluster. I'm going to glue it and brad it in place, as long as that doesn't split the wood, which it might. And that will give the space for the baluster to slide in when I do the installation, and also there will be a spacer in between the balusters. So the beauty of this design is that when the baluster is butted up against the handrail, the side guide will allow a little bit of gap in case there's any variation in my cutting, which there can be variation in my cutting. So that's the plan. And as suspected, these brads are definitely splitting the wood, but I don't think it's gonna work. So we'll see what we can do. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I get so downtrodden when I have an idea and it doesn't work. I don't know if you get that way. Anyway, putting a brad nail through the bottom of the side baluster guide is working. So, forgot where I left off. I got the rail together, I got the baluster side guides glued on, and I ended up putting brads through them, and it split a little bit, not too much. I think it'll work. So next I cut what will be the baluster spacers, and I just cut them out of the same 1/4 inch oak, and they slide into the bottom like that. And I'll install these spacers as I'm installing the balusters in place. I'll just cut them at, I don't know, something like a 4 inch, or probably 3 inch, 3.5 inch. In order to meet code, it needs to not allow a 4 inch sphere pass between the balusters. As you can see, I started to put a stain on them. I'm very happy with the color. The stain goes on very quickly. So it says to leave it on for 2 to 3 minutes. The longer you leave it on, the darker it gets, and you need to wipe it off with another towel, another rag, lint-free rag. So I'm just gonna make my way through them. All right, I'm back in the dungeon in the basement here, and I have stained the handrail and the newel post and the baluster spacers, and right now I'm putting poly on them. So it was hard to get video of it because my hands were covered in stain, but this is what it looked like. I'll try to pan around. So we chose this dark stain, which will cover up a lot of the blemishes, and it looks really good. I'm really happy with it. So the stain that I chose says that you do not need to use a wood conditioner, which is nice not to have to do that step. A wood conditioner will also take out some of the defects, some of the blemishes and inconsistencies that you would see in the wood grain. Oh, this is great. This thing is looking awesome. Oh, it's really hard not to go back and fix these kind of streaks, but it's gonna dry clear, and this is not too bad. Did I show a video of this newel post after it was stained? It looks awesome. Did I mention I really like old millwork? Digging through all these architectural resale shops has been pretty exciting for me. You can tell I get fired up about this newel post and this handrail. They're great. Quick tip. This is a quick tip. All right, so turns out you should only put a very thin amount of poly on. I feel like showing you the instructions. It says to put on a thick coat of poly. But, you know, you should never really listen to the instructions anyway. If you look up close, you don't even have to be up close. I sent a picture of this to my wife and she saw it from the picture. And actually now I've gone over it, but poly, as it was curing, poly dripped out of these seams and pooled. I had spent about 20 minutes I was picking it up as it was coming down, and it was dramatically slowing down, and I thought we were good, and I had to leave. But we're not so good. All right, so the panic has slowed down. Let me show you what we're working with. The little spots on the railing that had the haze on it ended up being okay. Here's the Newel post. And most of it's looking pretty good. There are 2 spots where the polyurethane pooled. It dripped out of these seams, and the seams are slightly hazy. Not too bad, I'm not gonna touch them. But I gotta get this up, so I'm gonna keep working on the installation. Eek! Cliffhanger! Okay, so that was getting the handrail, getting the Newel post, getting it stained, getting the poly on it. If you wanna see all these pieces put together in the installation, so check out the next video, the part 2. I'll put it all together.
I'm not talking.
What? You're not talking?
Dragon.